When the dust from a toxic experience begins to settle, something ancient and powerful awakens in the depths of the female psyche, something Carl Jung would call the archetype of the wise woman, or popularly, the inner witch. This awakening doesn't happen by chance, but as an urgent response from a soul that has been pushed to the extreme and needed to find hidden resources to survive constant emotional manipulation. The naivete of the good girl, that part of you that believed that love endures all things and that kindness always wins without limits, needed to end its cycle to give way to a more instinctive force. Narcissistic abuse acts as a brutal catalyst that breaks the fragile structures of personality, forcing you to descend into your own underworld to reclaim your true power. The witch is not a figure of evil, but the guardian of mysteries, the possessor of sharp intuition, who no longer accepts being deceived by superficial appearances or empty sweet words. In analytical psychology, this process marks the beginning of individuation, where a woman ceases to be a projection of others' expectations and becomes who she truly is, integrating light and shadow into an unbreakable whole. The awakening of the inner witch is the recognition that you possess ancestral wisdom that has been silenced for years by attempts to please those who lacked the capacity to truly value it. You begin to feel a profound connection with nature, with the cycles of life, and with an inner truth that vibrates higher than any external manipulation they try to impose again. It is the moment when the victim leaves the scene and the initiate enters, the one who has crossed the fire of trial and emerged on the other side carrying the gold of awakened consciousness. This new facet of your personality doesn't fear solitude, for it understands that solitude is the cauldron where the magic of reconstruction happens, far from the judgmental gazes and incessant demands of the narcissist. The witch knows that her value is non-negotiable and that her energy is a sacred resource that should not be wasted on emotional vampires who only seek supply. The awakening brings with it an almost frightening visual clarity. Suddenly, the masks fall, and you can see the wounded and tyrannical child behind the manipulator's arrogant posture. This X-ray vision is one of the greatest gifts that emerge after the breakup, allowing you to navigate the world with an inner compass that always points to the truth. The feeling of being changed or different that many women report is not a flaw, but a sign that the psyche is reorganizing itself to ensure that this type of invasion never happens again in their lives. Jung would say that you are accessing the self, the regulating center of the psyche, which now takes command and removes the wounded ego from the direction of your life. The inner witch is the manifestation of this spiritual authority that refuses to be submissive in the face of disrespect, rising up with a dignity that imposes natural boundaries. She doesn't need to shout to be heard. Her presence, now dense and real, speaks for itself, creating a force field that repels what is not authentic. The process of awakening this force is irreversible. Once you have tasted the power of your own strength and wisdom, it is impossible to return to the tight confines of your former conformity. The suffering caused by the draining relationship was the fuel that life used to ignite this flame that now illuminates the darkest corners of your self-understanding. You are no longer the one who asks permission to exist. You are the one who knows that your existence is necessary and sacred. The inner witch is your most faithful ally, the part of you that survived the emotional winter and is now ready to plant a new garden. For a long time, you may have operated under the persona of the savior or the overly understanding woman, believing that if you loved enough, the other person would change and peace would reign. However, the pattern of control imposed by the narcissist destroyed this illusion, showing that complacency does not generate love, but rather disrespect and continuous exploitation of your kindness. The awakening of your inner witch marks the funeral of this complacent persona, a necessary moment where you abandon the need to be seen as good by everyone. Jung teaches us that the persona is just a social mask, and when it becomes too heavy or ineffective, the psyche discards it to allow the emergence of something more authentic and protective. If you feel you're at that stage of shedding your old skin and embracing your power, subscribe to the channel right now. By joining this community, you will have access to daily tools that will help you navigate this transformation safely and wisely, without feeling alone. Your registration is a concrete step in affirming to the universe that you are committed to your truth and your new life of freedom. By letting go of the need for approval, you discover an intoxicating freedom. The freedom of not having to smile when you don't want to, and of not saying yes when your body screams no. The inner witch isn't rude, but surgical. She cuts the ties that drain life and preserves what is vital for your growth and well-being. The narcissist, accustomed to your submission, is shocked to realize that the buttons they used to push no longer work, because the internal wiring has been changed. You now operate by your own value system, where loyalty to yourself comes before any loyalty to those who hurt you or tried to dim your light. This rebirth is not without grief, for often we must say goodbye to the innocence that made us see the world through rose-colored glasses. But in return, we gain a multicolored and realistic vision of existence. The woman who is reborn from this process possesses a gravity and a presence that she previously lacked, for now she inhabits her own body and her own history without apology. The death of the old self is in fact a liberation from the invisible chains of codependency, allowing you to breathe the pure air of autonomy. You realize that being good doesn't mean being naive, and that it's possible to have a giant heart and at the same time a sharp sword to defend it. The new identity that emerges is built on the rock of experience, no longer on the sand of others' expectations or failed romantic projections. You become the author of your narrative, rewriting the script of a tragedy into an epic journey of overcoming and discovering personal power. The inner witch is the architect of this new life, the one who mixes the ingredients of pain, hope, and wisdom to create the elixir of your healing. Rebirth is the natural state of those who refuse to remain on the ground after the fall. One of the greatest harms caused by emotional manipulation is the disconnection from one's own intuition, that butterflies in the stomach feeling that warns when something is wrong, but which has been silenced by gaslighting. The awakening of the inner witch is, essentially, the recovery of this wild intuition, described by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, a Jungian analyst, as the scent of the wild woman. Suddenly you begin to hear again that whispered voice that tells you the truth about people and situations, and this time you decide to trust it unconditionally. The paralyzing doubt is replaced by a visceral certainty, a knowledge that doesn't pass through rational logic, but is absolutely precise and protective. This regained intuition functions like a high-precision radar, detecting falsehood, envy, and hidden intentions from miles away, even before they manifest in actions. You no longer need concrete proof to distance yourself from someone. The person's vibration is already enough information for your inner witch to make a protective decision. The narcissist loses the power to confuse your mind because you now read the energy behind the words, seeing the trap before stepping into it. It's a return to the primal survival instinct, honed by the experience of pain, and now serving as your faithful guardian. The inner witch uses intuition to guide you toward what is healthy, nourishing your soul with environments, people, and activities that promote life and expansion. You begin to feel drawn to everything that is genuine and a natural repulsion for everything that is manufactured, artificial, or manipulative. This inner compass guides your steps in rebuilding, ensuring that you don't build your new life on false or illusory foundations again. Self-confidence gradually returns as you realize that your warning system is working perfectly and that it was always right. Jung believed that intuition is a psychological function that connects us with the collective unconscious, giving access to wisdom that goes beyond immediate individual experience. By accessing this channel, you become more creative, more insightful, and much more difficult to deceive or control by anyone. Intuition is the language of your soul, and the inner witch is the translator that ensures you understand the messages and act accordingly. The fear of making mistakes diminishes because you know that if you listen to your inner self, you will always be on the right path to your evolution. Regaining your intuition is like returning home after a long exile in a foreign land. It's feeling safe in your own skin again. You stop searching for answers outside yourself, in gurus, partners, or social validation, and begin to find the answers in the silence of your own being. The inner witch smiles, knowing that now that you've started listening again, you'll never again be easy prey for emotional predators. Your vision has cleared, and the world reveals itself in its naked and raw truth. Many women have been taught to repress anger, viewing it as a negative or unspiritual emotion, leaving them defenseless against abuse. However, awakening the inner witch involves integrating the shadow, a Jungian concept encompassing everything we deny within ourselves, including the capacity for self-defense and healthy aggression. You discover the sacred rage, a volcanic energy that serves not to destroy the other, but to establish insurmountable boundaries and protect your integrity. This rage is the psyche's immune system reacting against invasion and feeling it is a vital sign that you are regaining self-respect. Sacred fury is the force that says enough and closes doors that should never have been left open to disrespect and manipulation. It gives you the courage to block contact, to leave humiliating situations, and to demand to be treated with the dignity you deserve. By integrating this part of your shadow, you cease to be the passive victim and become the warrior who firmly defends your emotional territory. Jung said he preferred to be whole rather than good, and integrity requires us to accept our capacity to be fierce when our life or peace is at stake. The narcissist, who relied on your docility and fear of conflict, is disoriented by this newfound strength emanating from you, a strength that makes no apologies. The inner witch doesn't fear being called crazy, hysterical, or difficult, because she knows these are labels used to control women who have reclaimed their power. You realize that your anger is a potent fuel for change, propelling you out of stagnation and building a life shielded from toxicity. Far from being a poison, this processed anger is the antidote that expels the residue of submission from your system. By making peace with your shadow, you become a complete woman, capable of being kind when appropriate and ruthless when necessary. There is no longer a need to hide parts of yourself to be accepted. You present yourself whole, with light and darkness dancing in harmony. This authenticity is what makes the inner witch so magnetic, and at the same time so intimidating to those who live a lie. You stop projecting your strength onto others and take ownership of your own personal power. Integrating the shadow brings profound peace as the internal war between what you feel and what you think you should feel finally ends. You validate yourself, embrace yourself, and allow yourself to be human with all the emotions that entails without judgment. The sacred fury clears the ground so that self-love can flourish in safe and protected soil. The inner witch is intrinsically linked to the cycles of nature, understanding that life is made of death and rebirth, of harsh winters and flowery springs. After the devastating phase caused by the pattern of control, you begin to respect your own internal rhythms, stopping forcing yourself to be okay all the time. You accept that healing takes time, just as a physical wound needs time to heal and a seed needs time in the dark to germinate. This connection with nature removes the anxiety of haste and brings a serenity of knowing that everything is following the right order of things. You begin to perceive signs and synchronicities around you, feeling that the universe is dialoguing with you and supporting your liberation process. Nature becomes a refuge and a source of energetic recharge, where you can cleanse your vibrational field of negative influences from the past. Instinct, which is the body's biological intelligence, becomes your guide, telling you when to rest, when to act, and when to withdraw. The inner witch honors the body as a sacred temple that has held memories of pain and now needs to be purified and revered. At this point in your reconnection journey, I would like to know, what was the first instinctive sign you felt when you began to awaken to the reality of the abuse, but perhaps ignored at the time? Leave your answer in the comments, as sharing this insight helps validate your intuition and strengthens other women's confidence in their own instincts. Exchanging experiences is a powerful way to honor the collective wisdom we are building here. By aligning yourself with the cycles, you realize that the end of the relationship wasn't a mistake, but a necessary pruning so that new branches could grow stronger and healthier. The witch's vision is systemic and broad. She sees the whole forest, not just the fallen tree, and understands the greater purpose behind the pain. The instinct for preservation, which was switched off by manipulation, is now alert and active, functioning as a fierce guardian of your new life. This connection with the earth and with instinct brings a feeling of grounding, of being firmly on the ground, unshakable in the face of emotional storms. You cease to be a leaf in the wind, carried away by the whims of others, and become a tree with deep roots. The wild nature of your soul has been restored, and with it, the ability to live with passion and real purpose. The archetype of the witch is, par excellence, that of the alchemist, the one who knows how to transform dense and poisonous substances into remedies of healing and elevation. You take the pain of abandonment, betrayal, and humiliation, and instead of letting it embitter you, you use it to distill a profound wisdom about human nature. Suffering ceases to be a dwelling place and becomes a school for the soul, where you learn the most difficult lessons about self-love and boundaries. Jung called this process transmutation, where the lead of traumatic experience is converted into the gold of individuated consciousness. You realize that the toxic experience gave you a doctorate in human psychology, allowing you to see dynamics that most people ignore. This wisdom doesn't make you cynical, but rather selective and protective of your inner circle. The inner witch knows which herbs heal and which kill, metaphorically speaking, and applies this knowledge to your future relationships. You transform the victim narrative into a heroine narrative, one who descended into hell and returned with the key to her own freedom. Alchemy demands patience and constant fire. It's the daily work of choosing yourself, forgiving your past naivete, and focusing on the present. Every time you choose not to react to the narcissist's provocations, you are transmuting the karma of the relationship and breaking the cycle of abuse. Silence and indifference become the pure gold of your response, showing that you are no longer available to be the raw material for someone else's chaos. Your energy is now invested in creating the life you desire, not in repairing what has been broken. This inner transformation is reflected externally. Many women report feeling more beautiful, younger, and more radiant after their inner witch awakens. It's the glow of one who has purified themselves in the fire and now emanates a light from within, a light that cannot be extinguished. The narcissist, living in the darkness of their own envy, cannot bear to see this glow, for it is living proof that they failed to destroy it. Their cure is the greatest revenge, a revenge that seeks not to hurt, but only to flourish. The inner witch is the teacher who teaches that nothing is wasted in the psychic universe. Everything can be used for growth if we have the courage to face it. You are living proof of the resilience of the human spirit, capable of rebuilding itself and finding beauty even after devastation. The alchemy is complete when you can look back without pain, only with the understanding of the lessons learned. With the awakening of the inner witch comes the ability to say no that is absolute, calm, and non-negotiable, establishing the boundaries of your personal realm. You understand that your energy is a privilege, not a public right, and that access to you must be earned through respect and reciprocity. This no is the sword that cuts the energetic cords with the abuser and with anyone who tries to replicate the dynamic of devaluation. Sovereignty is the state of governing oneself without allowing external influences to dictate one's worth or emotions. The narcissist hates no because it represents the end of their control and the barrier to their narcissistic supply. But the witch is not intimidated by their anger or victimization. She remains firm in her position, protecting her sacred space. You learn that saying no to the other is saying a resounding yes to your mental health and your dignity. The guilt that previously accompanied each refusal disappears, replaced by the certainty that you are doing what is right for your soul. Given this newfound strength you are discovering, I ask, what area of your life do you feel needs to say a definitive no today to regain your peace? Think about it, and if you feel like it, share it in the comments to seal this commitment to your sovereignty. The practice of saying no is a muscle that strengthens with use, and each boundary set is a victory of your inner witch over the old pattern of submission. Sovereignty brings immense peace, for you are no longer at the mercy of others' moods or opinions. You are the center of your own universe. You decide who enters, who stays, and who should leave, based on the quality of the exchange and the truth of the relationship. The inner witch is the queen who sits on the throne of your life, ruling with justice and wisdom, unafraid of being alone if the company is not worthy. The queen's solitude is preferable to the company of the court jester who mocks her. The unwavering no is the most powerful protection spell that exists, creating a magic circle around you where only true love can enter. You have recovered the key to your inner home and changed the lock, ensuring that the past no longer has access to your present. Your word is law in your world, and your will is the driving force of your new reality. The inner witch is, by nature, self-sufficient. She knows how to draw from her inner source everything she needs to feel fulfilled and complete. After the abuse, you discover that you don't need another half to be whole, because you are already a complete universe in yourself. This discovery breaks the emotional dependence that the narcissist carefully cultivated, leaving him without the tools to manipulate you. You learn to give yourself the love, affection, validation, and security that you previously begged from someone who had nothing to offer. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolation, but the ability to relate from a place of fullness, not lack. When you are full of yourself, you don't accept crumbs, and this naturally repels predators who seek hungry victims. The witch knows how to prepare her own elixirs of happiness, finding pleasure in her own company, her hobbies, her work, and her spirituality. The void left by the narcissist is filled by her own luminous and creative presence. Jung spoke about the integration of opposites, and self-sufficiency is the balance between the masculine and feminine within you, allowing you to take care of yourself on all levels. You become both father and mother to yourself, protecting and nurturing your inner child with the dedication it has always deserved. The narcissist loses their function in your life because they no longer have anything to offer that you haven't already achieved on your own. The magic happens when you realize that the person of your life is you. This emotional independence is terrifying for the manipulator. because he knows he can't control someone who doesn't need him for anything. The inner witch laughs at his attempt to create jealousy or insecurity because she knows her worth and doesn't compete for attention. You become a mystery to him, an equation he can't solve, because your logic is that of freedom and his is that of possession. Self-sufficiency brings an indescribable lightness to your days because you release the expectation that someone will come to save you or complete you. You are your own miracle, your own source of joy, and your own anchor. The witch's magic is to transform need into preference and loneliness into sacred solitude. The final stage of awakening the inner witch is the search for wholeness, not perfection, as Carl Jung taught. You accept that you are made of light and shadow, of kindness and firmness, of love and the capacity for defense, and that all these parts are sacred. The whole woman doesn't need to hide her flaws or feign feelings she doesn't have. She is real, raw, and incredibly powerful in her authenticity. Narcissistic abuse, paradoxically, accelerated this integration process, forcing you to see all aspects of your humanity. Wholeness means that you no longer reject any part of your history, not even the painful moments, because you understand that they were the loom where your new identity was woven. You embrace your vulnerability as strength and your sensitivity as a gift, ceasing to fight against your own nature. The inner witch is the celebration of this complexity, the woman who dances under the full moon and who also knows how to face the beasts in the dark forest. You become a multidimensional, vast, and profound human being. If you want to continue exploring this journey of wholeness and discover more about the power of archetypes in your healing, subscribe to the channel now. Our community is a safe space for you to integrate all your facets and celebrate the magnificent woman you are becoming. Your presence here is essential so that we can continue to bring you content that enlightens and liberates. Integration brings an emotional stability that the narcissist will never achieve because they live in fragmentation and denial of who they are. You, on the contrary, have become solid, coherent, and unified, which gives you unshakable peace in the face of external chaos. The inner witch has tied together the loose ends of your psyche, stitching up the wounds with threads of gold and self-love. You are no longer a patchwork quilt, but a royal cloak of wisdom and beauty. The quest for wholeness is the highest spiritual path, and you are walking this road with courage and determination. The narcissist is left behind, trapped in their illusions, while you move towards the reality of your being. The inner witch is the guardian of this wholeness, ensuring that you never again fragment yourself to fit where you don't belong. At the end of this process, the inner witch evolves and takes her place on the throne as the sovereign queen of her own destiny. You are no longer defined by what happened to you, but by what you chose to become from that point on. Abuse is merely a footnote in your biography, while the main chapters are written with the ink of your freedom and your achievements. You govern your mental and emotional kingdom with wisdom, not allowing invaders to disturb the order and harmony you have built with so much effort. The sovereign holds no grudges, for grudges are a bond with the past. She practices radical detachment, leaving the narcissist to their own karma and choices. You understand that the best revenge is a life well lived, full of joy, prosperity, and true love. Your happiness is proof that light has triumphed over darkness and that life always finds a way to renew itself. You are living proof of the resilience and regenerative capacity of the feminine spirit. You look to the future with hope and enthusiasm, knowing you possess all the inner tools to handle whatever comes. Your self-confidence is unwavering, for it has been tested in fire and proven by life. The witch, now queen, knows her power is eternal and her soul is invincible. You have reclaimed your crown, and it shines brighter than ever. The path to healing led her back to herself, to the home she should never have left. Now she inhabits that home with joy and gratitude, celebrating each day as a gift of her hard-won freedom. The awakening of the inner witch was the awakening of her own forgotten divinity. You are free, you are strong, and you are the absolute master of your own story. The Queen has ascended the throne, and the reign is one of peace, light, and unconditional self-love.